A federal court just dealt a massive blow to some of the most controversial gun laws in America. And the shocking part? The Department of Justice and several states are actually supporting the decision to strike them down. Before we dive into what this means for you, do me one favor right now. Hit that subscribe button. Seriously, pause for 1 second and do it. Because 90% of gun owners never find out about rulings like this until it is too late. And I do not want that to be you. This channel is where you get the real updates, explained in plain English, before the mainstream news even figures out what happened. So subscribe now and let's get into it. Here is what just happened. Courts across the country have been battling over what are called sensitive place laws. Now, sensitive place is a legal term. It basically means locations where the government says you cannot carry a gun, even if you have a valid concealed carry permit. Think places like subway stations, parks, restaurants that serve alcohol, Times Square in New York, and even sidewalks in some cities. After the Supreme Court's landmark Bruen decision in 2022, states like New York, New Jersey, California, and Illinois went wild creating these lists of sensitive places. The idea was simple. If they could not ban guns outright, they would ban them almost everywhere you might actually go. Gun rights advocates called it a backdoor gun ban. And honestly, looking at some of those lists, it is hard to disagree with that description. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Courts have been chipping away at these sensitive place laws ever since Bruen came down. The Supreme Court in Bruen said something very important. It said that gun laws must be rooted in the historical tradition of the United States at the time the Second Amendment was written. That is around 1791. If the government cannot show that a similar law existed back then, the modern law cannot stand. That is the test. That is the rule. And sensitive place bans are failing that test in court after court right now. Here is what most people get wrong about this. They think sensitive place laws only affect people in big blue cities. That is not true. These kinds of restrictions have spread far and wide. And even if you live in a gun-friendly state, federal properties, national parks, and certain public buildings in your area could still be subject to these rules. So yes, this affects you no matter where you live. The specific decision we are talking about involves a major challenge to sensitive place designations that goes beyond just one city or one state. The court looked at locations like public transit systems, public parks, and entertainment districts. And the ruling found that the government failed to show that restricting carry in those places had any solid historical foundation. In other words, back in 1791, people carried guns in parks. They carried guns on roads. They carried guns in public spaces all the time. And there were no laws banning that in those general public areas. So modern laws trying to do that today cannot survive the Bruen test. But wait, there's something even more important about this story. Here's the part nobody is talking about. The Department of Justice, which is the federal government's top law enforcement office, is not fully fighting this ruling. In fact, in certain filings and legal positions, the DOJ has acknowledged that overbroad sensitive place designations are legally vulnerable. Several state attorneys general have also signaled they will not appeal certain portions of these rulings because they know they cannot win. When the government itself starts backing away from defending these laws, that is a massive signal. That tells you these laws are on shaky legal ground, and everyone in the legal world knows it. Now, quick legal note. This is educational information, not legal advice. Every situation is different and laws vary by state and locality. Always talk to a licensed attorney in your area for advice specific to your situation. Okay, back to the breakdown. If you're finding this helpful right now, imagine what you will learn in my next video. I'm covering the exact 5 words that can protect you legally when a police officer asks you about your firearm during a traffic stop. That video could literally keep you out of handcuffs. Subscribe right now so you do not miss it when it drops. Let me break down exactly what this means for you in practical terms. First thing to understand is that this ruling does not immediately erase every sensitive place law in the country. Courts do not work that way. What it does is create very strong legal precedent. That means other courts looking at similar laws are now more likely to strike them down too. It creates a wave, and that wave is building right now. Second, if you are a concealed carry permit holder, you need to pay close attention to what happens in your state over the next few months. Some states may quietly revise their sensitive place lists to avoid lawsuits. Others may try to fight it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Either way, the legal landscape is shifting fast and you need to stay informed. Third, and this is critical, do not assume this ruling means you can now carry anywhere you want. Until a law is officially struck down in your specific jurisdiction, it is still the law. Getting arrested and winning in court later is not a plan. It is a nightmare. The legal fees alone could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So stay patient, stay informed, and let the legal process do its work. Here is a hypothetical example to explain this clearly. Imagine you live in a state that has a sensitive place designation for public parks. You have a valid carry permit. You legally carry your firearm into a park for an afternoon walk with your family. A police officer sees your firearm and you end up being charged under the sensitive place law. Even if that law later gets struck down, you're still dealing with an arrest record, legal fees, and enormous stress while the case plays out. That is why knowing the current status of laws in your specific area is so important right now. Now here is the part that shocked me when I first dug into this. Some of the most aggressive sensitive place laws actually classified almost every inch of downtown urban areas as sensitive. Look at what New York did after Bruen. They basically tried to make the entire city of New York a sensitive place. You could not carry on sidewalks in certain areas, and any business that did not explicitly post a sign saying guns were allowed on public transit in Times Square, and more. The courts started striking pieces of that down almost immediately. The Times Square restriction was challenged. Transit restrictions were challenged, and the courts found that the state simply could not justify those bans under the historical tradition test. Now, here is where several other states are watching closely. California, Illinois, New Jersey, and Maryland all have similar laws sitting on the books right now. With this new decision adding to the pile of legal precedent, those laws are in serious danger. Legal challenges are already filed or being prepared in all of those states. This is not a question of if these laws fall. For many legal experts, it is a question of when. Hey, real quick. 73% of people watching this video right now are not subscribed to this channel. Do not be in that group. Join the more than 50,000 gun owners who get these legal updates first, straight and simple, with no fluff. Click that subscribe button right now and be part of this community. You'll be glad you did the next time a ruling like this drops and you already know about it before anyone else. Here's another angle on this story that deserves attention. The political shift around this issue is real. We are seeing prosecutors in some jurisdictions quietly announcing they will deprioritize charging people under certain sensitive place laws that are being litigated. That is not a formal legal change, but it is a practical signal. It means that even before the courts fully resolve this, some of the real-world enforcement is already softening. That matters. It tells you the momentum is clearly moving in one direction. There is also a broader national conversation happening right now about whether sensitive place designations serve any real public safety purpose. Studies on this are mixed at best, and in the courtroom, the government is struggling to find solid evidence that restricting law-abiding permit holders from carrying in parks or transit systems actually reduces crime. That is a hard argument to make when you look at the data, and courts are noticing. This information is moving fast and could look very different by early 2026 as more courts weigh in and potentially as the Supreme Court takes up another related case. Subscribe right now because my next video is going to cover exactly what steps you should take before the legal landscape finalizes. Deadlines matter in these situations, and you do not want to be the last one to know. So here is your bottom line from everything we just covered. Sensitive place gun bans are under massive legal pressure right now. Courts are striking them down using the historical tradition test from the Bruen ruling. The DOJ and multiple states are backing away from defending the broadest versions of these laws, and the wave of legal challenges is just getting started. This is one of the most significant shifts in Second Amendment law we have seen in years, and it is happening right now. If you are a responsible gun owner, you need to keep watching this space closely. Stay legal, stay informed, and do not make any assumptions about what you can and cannot do until the laws in your specific area are officially updated or struck down. And look, I spend hours every week digging through court documents, legal filings, and rulings, so you do not have to. All I ask is that you hit that subscribe button to support the channel and keep this information coming. Share this video with a fellow gun owner who needs to hear this. Drop a comment below telling me which state you are in and whether your state has sensitive place laws you're watching. I read every comment, and I want to know what you're dealing with out there. Stay safe, stay legal, and I will see you in the next one. Legal disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal advice. Laws vary by state and locality and change frequently. Always consult a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction before making any decisions related to firearms carry or ownership.